For many of us, the must-see TV tonight isn't just the game, it's the commercials. And with some ads going for as much as $8 million for a 30-second spot, there's plenty of pressure to get noticed. And sometimes, David Pogue tells us, a star is born.
Hey, Flo.
Cool. You know those Progressive insurance ads?
Good. Again.
Ooh, a big old tree limb comes crashing through the window. Boom! You're covered.
This is what it's like to make one.
Steph, lose the wow up front. Ready and action.
Maybe a big old tree crashes through her living room. Uh-oh, she's covered.
Is it safe to say that doing what you do, having witnessed it, is harder than the average person might think?
I'm gonna say yes, because you're catching me at the halfway point of our day, and I'm like, oh, Mom needs a steak.
Comedian Stephanie Courtney has played Flo the insurance woman in 215 ads so far. She's helped turn Progressive into America's second largest car insurance company.
You are, by any measure, one of the most successful actors in the world.
Oh.
You've been on television nonstop for 16 years.
Oh, yeah.
Face recognition by the public, money, like every single way there is, you are at the top.
Thanks. I'm not gonna fight you on that, even though in my head I'm like, what?
What does it mean when you go out in public? Do people harass you, want selfies?
No, not really. I mean, I'm sort of halfway to Flo right now, but normally I look like a sea hag. So I get a double life.
She's come a long way since 2007.
I was broke as a joke. I was auditioning. I was driving around LA, auditioning for every commercial, every show.
Is it too much of a trope to say that you were a struggling actor?
I think that would be a compliment. I would have aspired to be a struggling actor. And then I got the audition for Progressive.
That first ad wasn't intended to be funny, but then came the ad lib that changed advertising history.
So I remember the first actor, his line after I tell him the whole thing is, wow, you know? And he said, wow. And 24/7 live support, all at no extra charge.
Wow.
Wow. I'm like, wow. And then I was kind of shocked at how I screamed in this actor's face, and I was like, wow, I say it louder. Wow, I know, I say it louder. And so that's the first clue about, like, who is she? How crazy can she get?
Viewers loved Flo, and the commercial icon was born.
Ding! The Name Your Price tool. Oh, gosh, don't mind if I do.
Now, you may know Dean Winters from his roles on Oz.
Not only did he say that he put a curse on me, he said he put a curse on you.
30 Rock.
Dennis Duffy, Beeper King.
Who's got a gun?
Or John Wick. But you're most likely to know him from the 150 TV ads he's made for Allstate.
I'm a parking gate and I'm all out of whack.
He plays Mayhem, the human embodiment of every risky person, place, or thing in your life.
I'm a raccoon.
I'm a bear.
I'm a random windstorm. Shaky, shaky.
It's like mayhem, mayhem, mayhem. I can't even ride the subway anymore.
Does it bother you at all that you're getting recognized more for an ad campaign?
Yeah, I think in the beginning maybe a little bit, but I wouldn't have the lifestyle that I live if it wasn't for people watching the commercials, watching the TV shows and movies, paying for their insurance. So every time someone stops me, my first thought is, oh, this person is helping me pay my mortgage.
The luxury of having a side hustle is not lost on Winters.
It's a very fickle business and thing, you know. You can go 6 months, 8 months without working easily, you know. A lot of my friends are struggling right now, and so, like, I'm very cognizant of and how lucky I am. It's become like the greatest thing that ever happened to me.
Barbie has always shown us that we can turn the impossible into reality with boldness and a little heart.
I am a 360-degree entertainer, singer, songwriter, vocal coach.
So playing this game for 10 minutes could win you more than a whole day's work.
But if anyone knows about the ups and downs of showbiz, it's Deanna Colon.
If you want to be in the world of entertainment, you have to do it all.
Can't stop now. I've traveled so far.
She was on America's Got Talent.
Check out my house, check out my tree.
And she's appeared in ads for Pepsi and Big Lots. But the biggest break she ever got was the Jardiance commercial.
I have type 2 diabetes, but I manage it well. It's a little pill with a big story to tell.
I never even gave her a name, but the chick from the Jardiance commercial, she was dancing with my mailman, and I'm, hey, how you doing, buddy? And she's living her best life.
The ad aired in March 2023, and aired, and aired, and aired.
Apparently, they showed it 1 million times. People were yelling at me online, I'm so sick of seeing your face. And I'm like, I have no power in how much they air this thing, guys.
Every day is Black Friday.
I don't think the public has any idea what commercials pay.
So I'll tell you, with Big Lots, I made over $100,000 in a 3-month period.
It's pretty good.
Pretty good.
Plus health insurance.
Yeah, plus you get your health insurance. Yeah, it's awesome.
What wasn't so awesome was the online hate that the Jardiance ad brought her.
I would get emails to my personal website that were horrible, and I'd just be crying. And it was mostly about my weight and how, you know, oh, if you danced like that all the time, you wouldn't be the size you are. And
would you do anything differently now that you know how toxic and horrific some people can be?
No, I'm always going to be a plus-size woman. I'm always going to be a curvy woman. And you're going to see me singing and dancing and acting. The joy of it all far outweighs the haters.
Sports. I've never been #1 at anything until I put these babies on.
Meanwhile, Dean Winters will be mayhem for as long as Allstate will have him.
You know, I really hoped I'm doing it until Mayhem's wheelchair racing in a nursing home. You know what I mean?
And I'm feeling every single creepy finger on this old man's hair.
As for Stephanie Courtney, she's given up her youthful dreams of appearing on Broadway and on Saturday Night Live. But she still performs every week with the Groundlings improv group in LA, and she still loves being Flo.
1, 2, 3. I will tell you the thing that made my heart grew 3 sizes that day was the Halloween costumes. Seeing especially like little kids, that I love it so much. I just I'm like, just keep reapplying powder, reapply your lipstick. Go forth, be free. Go spread the word.
A Warhol in the bathroom and a dressing room modeled after Coco Chanel's in Paris, with room for all sorts of clothing, including the uniquely American staple Serena Altschul tells us about.
So all kinds of experiments are happening here.
At the Eureka Innovation Lab in San Francisco, testing is underway. But you won't find a white coat in this laboratory.
So this is where the magic happens with the laser.
Oh, wow.
Here, you're more likely to find a pair of jeans.
Oh my God, it's on fire.
I mean, Levi's, to me, is kind of the birth of cool.
Protecting that cool is the mission of Levi's design director, Paul O'Neill.
There's so much work in progress.
He considers himself a custodian of the company's many legendary styles.
But this is how it all began.
Including one superior fit.
I mean, we tried to not to touch the 501 so much. Like from its beginnings in 1873 up until the late 1940s, all of the changes that happened were practical.
This year, that iconic pair is celebrating 150 years.
What's the difference between the 501 and some of the other models and jeans that you could try on and buy at Levi's?
Well, it's always a straight blue jean. I mean, when we look at other fits, we've got like skinnies, flares, bell bottoms, you know, all bells and whistles, but the 501 always just remains very simple and classic.
So it's not going to follow the trends, period?
No, it's something you can rely on.
Finding a reliable and durable pair of pants was the goal of businessman Levi Strauss and his tailor, Jacob Davis.
This is an 1873 or 1874 model year.
Levi's historian Tracy Panic says those trusty pants weren't possible until Davis added a rivet, creating the modern-day blue jean.
He came up with the idea of adding a little bit of metal in the pockets where your hands are going in and out, and to stop them from ripping, you added a little bit of that metal, and it stopped that.
But why the number 501?
It's simply a lot number, a simple way to keep records. 501 is the best, top of the line.
Top of the line, but the 501 was made for everyday blue-collar workers.
At the time, they were called overalls because you'd pull them up over your clothes to have this protective outer garment.
Nowadays, just about everyone has worn a pair of Levi's, from presidents to hippies to Hollywood.
Hey, Johnny, what are you rebelling against?
What do you got?
They were even part of Steve Jobs' uniform.
But we've got something unusual on his. Check out all the buttons.
Yeah, that's amazing.
Yeah.
So he did that himself. He put in suspender buttons. Like, that's
did.
hilarious.
Yeah.
As for the most efficient way to break in a new pair of 501s, Paul O'Neill has the secret.
You can sit in the bathtub in them. If you buy a pair of jeans that are the right size for you, but maybe a bit too long in the leg to allow the shrinkage, and if you sit in the tub, the jeans will mold to your body shape. So you'll truly get a unique pair of 501s.
Tricks of the trade. I love it.
Yeah.
Remember, a Jedi can feel the Force flowing through him.
You mean it controls your actions?
Partially, but it also obeys your commands.
It's Sunday morning on CBS, and here again is Jane Pauley.
Star Wars Luke Skywalker launched Mark Hamill's career, but in some ways that fame has been a double-edged lightsaber. Our Sunday profile is from Tracy Smith.
In 2015, on a remote island high above the sea, Star Wars fans had a reunion with an old friend, Mark Hamill as Luke Skywalker. And this past week, at his home high above the sea in Malibu, California, we caught up with him again.
How long have you lived here?
Let's see, we got this in 1978.
Hamill moved here after the first Star Wars film made him a household name.
I heard you call yourself elderly in an interview the other day. You see yourself as elderly?
Well, I called myself an elderly recluse. No, well, it's one of those things where when you say your age out loud, because I'm 71, I go, really? That's older than I ever expected to be.
How do you feel inside?
Much younger.
We should be safe in here.
And that's a good thing. His latest movie, The Machine, is not for the faint of heart.
Dad. I can't use that. After I read Mandela's biography, I made a vow of non-violence.
In the film, real-life comedian Bert Kreischer is in trouble with the Russian mob, and Hamill is his endearing and often annoying father.
And it took about 2 seconds before he started making me mental with the... Look at it! Oh, bear!
He's a monster.
I was drawn to the project because of the relationship between the son and the father. I mean, they're at odds and trying to understand one another.
And a good father-son storyline
I am your father.
Is something Mark Hamill knows all about. In the first Star Wars film, a young Luke Skywalker ponders his future with a double son and that John Williams score. But what we're actually seeing here is a 25-year-old actor on the ride of his life.
Take us back to the first audition for Star Wars. You weren't sure whether to play it straight?
Well, the problem was they didn't give us a whole script. And yeah, I couldn't figure out, is this like a send-up of Flash Gordon or whatever? You couldn't tell. Because nobody talks like this. And I was asking Harrison, because he had been in American Graffiti. I said, you know, George, is this like a joke, or should we send it up, make fun of it? Yeah, whatever, let's get it done. So he was no help.
Well, now you know. Danny's on the move. We haven't much time.
Well, I brought you here. Now what?
Of course, he got the part and was soon working with legends like Sir Alec Guinness.
Rest easy, son. You've had a busy day.
Just meeting him was such a thrill.
What was that like?
Oh my gosh, he took me out to lunch just to get to know each other a little bit. And I kept calling him Sir Alex. And at one point he tapped my face a little harder. I went, ow, what? I want to be known by my name, not my accolade.
Oh my gosh.
So I said, so can I call you Big Al?
You must learn the ways of the Force if you're to come with me to Alderaan.
He looked like an eager kid.
Hey, Laurie, it really doesn't make any difference.
But Mark Hamill had a few years in the business under his belt.
I don't see why I was gonna do the digging. Just be glad the cow didn't die.
With a raft of soap operas and TV series credits. Still, nothing could have prepared him for what happened when Star Wars premiered in the spring of '77.
We started the publicity tour. It was Carrie, Harrison, and me. And when we landed in Chicago, I looked out and I saw there were crowds outside. I said, hey, you guys, there must be somebody famous on this plane. We're looking around for like some, superstar athlete or whatever. They're dressed like us. There was no merchandising at the time, so they had, made homemade lightsabers and all these things. We sort of looked at each other and said, wow.
Star Wars, nothing but Star Wars.
Wow is right. The first film alone grossed nearly $800 million on an $11 million budget and became the cultural phenomenon we all know. But by 1981, Hamill wanted to shake his Luke Skywalker image and started doing Broadway shows, including the role of Mozart in Amadeus.
Did you want to play Mozart in the movie?
I went in and I met with Milos Forman, and in between I said, I'd really love a chance at playing Mozart. And he said, oh, no, the Luke Skywalker is not to be being the Mozart. So I thought, well, at least he's honest.
Was that a common refrain? We're not going to buy Luke Skywalker in this role?
Well, I'm sure in their minds. I mean, I at least admire the fact that he said it right to my face. But it's a crazy business.
Did that hurt?
Well, I was disappointed, but I thought all you can do is you got to go forward.
His co-star Carrie Fisher helped him put it all in perspective.
She told you back when you were doing theater not to be so precious about theater?
She said, what did you put in the playbill? He's also known for a series of popular space movies.
Is that what you put in the playbill?
Yeah, something like that. And she said, get over yourself. Look, you're Luke Skywalker. I'm Princess Leia. Just accept it.
Like always, you're as tough as nails.
Hamill's life off-screen has been remarkable as well. He's an accomplished voice actor.
Hello? Anybody home?
And a family man. He and his wife Marilou have been married 45 years and have 3 children.
Attention, air raid alert.
And if you find yourself in Ukraine during an airstrike,
Your overconfidence is your weakness.
you might hear Luke Skywalker's voice talking you down.
To be that voice of reassurance in a horrible crisis has got to feel good.
It feels great to be able to do something, instead of just twiddle my thumbs and curse at the television.
Strike me down in anger and I'll always be with you.
Hamill made his most recent Star Wars film appearance in 2017's The Last Jedi. He can't and won't say if he'll ever return.
I had my time, and that's good. But that's enough.
So even though you say you won't go back, there's always a chance that you could go back?
Well, you never say never. I just I don't see any reason to. Let me put it that way. I mean, they have so many stories to tell. They don't need Luke anymore.
You know that a lot of people out there would argue they always need Luke.
And even if he never picks up another lightsaber, the role will always be a part of him.
At this point, you could basically win a Grammy, cure cancer, and still forever you were going to be Luke Skywalker. Have you accepted that?
Yeah, well, I don't care. I mean, the truth of the matter is, I never really expected to be remembered for anything. I just wanted to make a living doing what I liked. And I thought it could be worse. I could be like known as being the best actor who ever played Adolf Hitler, or at least Luke is an admirable fellow.
The Force will be with you, always.
That's Pamela Anderson as C.J. Parker in the 90s worldwide TV hit Baywatch. Sudden fame took Anderson from a small town in Canada to a wild ride in Hollywood. But as Jim Axelrod discovers, turns out you can go home again.
After decades away, chasing the bright lights she so badly wanted and catching some she did not, Pamela Anderson has come home.
I was a mess. I came home in pieces.
To the sweeping rustic beauty of the Pacific Northwest.
Well, it's kind of this crazy calmness.
And her hometown on Vancouver Island called Ladysmith.
It's a healing space.
No paparazzi in Ladysmith?
Nothing too bad. I feel very protected here.
Where she found the tranquility she needed to restart her career and reset her life.
I mean, I'm usually running through there barefoot, all times of the year.
Yeah, this is a different kind of beach than the one most people associate you with. That beach, the one she patrolled in the 1990s TV show Baywatch, had made hers, for a time, into one of the best-known faces and bodies in the world.
Dan's getting away with murder in a bikini. I mean, I didn't have to do anything.
You just had to run along the beach.
In slow motion.
You blew up.
Just took off like crazy. It was like 150 countries. I didn't even know there were 150 countries.
The fame came with some top-shelf chaos. 6 marriages, a case of hepatitis C, and the first sex tape of the internet age, made on her honeymoon with Motley Crue drummer Tommy Lee. But after years of other people telling her story on their terms,
I want to take control of the narrative for the first time.
Pamela Anderson is now telling it on hers. Her memoir and the Netflix companion documentary drop at the end of the month.
I'm writing my book. This documentary is coming out. Then I can put all of this behind me.
All of this is an often harrowing tale. I imagine you almost had that conversation with yourself. If I'm going to do this, I gotta write honestly.
You have to write the full picture.
Which meant describing a childhood shaped by trauma. There's a scene where your father is holding your mother's head to the stove and you punch your father in the face.
These were pivotal moments for me.
She was failed by so many who kids count on to feel safe. Her father.
I was told not to bring the kittens into the house. And I had my kittens in the house. And so he ended up putting them in a paper bag and running down to the beach with me, screaming after him, and he drowned the kittens.
How old were you?
Probably 6 or 7.
The babysitter, she says, sexually abused her.
A female predator. That was tough to understand.
How did that shape you?
Well, it made me trust people, less and less.
She also writes vivid accounts of being raped at 12 and again at 14.
The whole point is not keeping those secrets or those things buried.
Amid all that horror was a small stroke of good fortune. Hired by a beer company to model after she was spotted at a football game in one of their t-shirts, Lucky Break became life changer when Hugh Hefner saw the ads. Next thing she knew, she was on a plane to LA. When the opportunity arose, you must have grabbed it because you could get out of this place where there were so many bad memories.
Yes, and my grandfather taught me, you're not an extension of the small town. You're not an extension of your parents. You're a brand new light given to this planet to do whatever you want with. In adventure, I wasn't afraid of it. I said, let's just go. Let's see where it takes me.
Within months in 1989, she was on the first of 14 covers of Playboy. You write that you'd been sexualized so young, Playboy was an opportunity for you to take your sexuality back.
With a vengeance. Oh, it's textbook if you want to get into some psychology, but it's facing it and dealing with it in my own way.
her way included an impulsive marriage to Tommy Lee after knowing him for just 4 days. Her lurch for security turned a bad boy rocker into her own Prince Charming.
Tommy and I fell in love. It felt like this really safe place. He would arrive at the house on a horse with covered, in full knight gear on, knight in shining armor, and read a scroll to me. It was just so hyper heightened, but it felt good. It felt like, oh my gosh, this is what it's all about. This is true love. It was so romantic. It was so over the top.
But that's not a foundation for sustainable love.
No, it's not a foundation for sustainable love. I haven't done that yet. I haven't figured that part out yet.
She may have been trying to buffer pain with a fairy tale, but there would be no happily ever after.
After being with Tommy, after that tape was stolen.
Ah, yes, that tape. The one she and Tommy made on their honeymoon. It was stolen from their safe. Their intimate moments turned into a profit center for others.
What do you want people to understand about it?
That it was stolen property. That it was two crazily naked people in love. I mean, we were naked all the time and filming each other and being silly, but those tapes were not meant for anybody else to see. And I've not seen it to this day. It was very hurtful.
I love you, Pam. I've been a fan of yours for so long, but I gotta say, watching you in that sex tape was like a whole new experience for me, because up until then, I'd never seen anyone get gonorrhea before.
She became a painful cultural punchline.
That's right. Miss Anderson is an actress, a model, a writer, a producer. I think for a while she was a hooker.
And she still has time to Tommy Lee's on a yacht in St. Bart's.
Her marriage to Tommy Lee wouldn't survive. Neither would 5 others that came after. She was barely keeping it together, focusing on the 2 young sons she had with Lee.
I was a mother. That saved me. If I wasn't a mom, I don't think I would have survived.
Pamela Anderson knew she had some work to do.
To actually dig into those moments, those things we suppress and repress, and I needed to do this.
And do it alone.
Are you all done falling in love?
I don't know. Right now, it's really good for me to be alone. For the first time. I'm usually, people are in and out of my life, or people come into my life, and I thought, the common denominator in all these relationships is me. So I need to work on that.
To conquer the demons, she traveled back to where she'd first confronted them. Back home, to the isolation of Ladysmith.
This full circle thing was very therapeutic, and I knew I kind of had to retrace my steps as a kid. And it was very visual, and very triggering, and very therapeutic to be home. There was a lot of anger. I felt volcanic. This rage was coming out of me, and I thought, whoa, 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 where's that coming from? But just little by little, I started getting stronger and stronger.
Last year, she decided it was time for the next stage of her healing.
You want to know something? I always wanted my name in the papers.
One that would take place 3,000 miles from her home in Canada, on Broadway.
The name on everybody's lips is gonna be
Playing Roxy Hart, the femme fatale in the musical Chicago, to some surprisingly good reviews.
It's good, isn't it grand?
I wanted to know what I was capable of.
Great.
I need to know that I'm good at something, that I have some talent. It was frightening, but that's a good feeling. I mean, you want to push yourself out of your comfort zone.
What was the most frightening part of it?
Singing, can't do that. Dancing, can't do that. Acting, can't do that. Like, how am I going to do all 3 together?
But you had great reviews.
Yeah, I know. That was shocking.
Just outside the stage door, Pamela Anderson, at the age of 55, found just what she needed.
I felt rooted for, which was a different feeling than I felt before.
The perfect feeling to bring back home with her.
I feel like I've left here, did something crazy, and came back home in one piece.
Where her pain is rooted. And now, so is her healing.
I don't know what I'm capable of. I still don't know, but I think that was the beginning. All the rest of it, it's, behind me. I feel like I'm in a really good place.
Sounds like a nice life.
It's nice. And look around me. I'm very blessed.
A music landmark is celebrating its 100th birthday. Luke Burbank has found us 2 on the aisle at the Hollywood Bowl.
If you're looking for the perfect LA day, you'll want to soak up the sun and play in the sand at one of its many beaches. But for the perfect LA night, you'll need to head about 20 miles inland for an evening under the stars at the Hollywood Bowl. Nestled in one of Hollywood's many canyons, this amphitheater has been the Southern California destination for fans and performers for a century.
You see the Hollywood Bowl, you listen to great music there, the sound arrive amazing, Hollywood sign, you have the sky, you have all of that. So
Gustavo Dudamel is the music and artistic director for the LA Philharmonic. The night we were in attendance, he was conducting a salute to George Gershwin. If Dudamel looks right at home here, it might be because this is where he made his U.S. debut at the tender age of 24.
It's overwhelming, especially because the history, you see the Hollywood Bowl in films, in cartoons and all of that. And when you arrive here, you feel all of that historic background.
The Hollywood Bowl has often been the backdrop for great moments in TV and film. From beaches to the Beverly Hillbillies.
Well, there are your 20,000 seats.
And all of it under that iconic band shell, or at least one of them.
So this band shell was built in 2004, and in fact, it's the 5th shell of the Hollywood Bowl.
Chad Smith is CEO of the Los Angeles Philharmonic Association and a bit of a historian for the Hollywood Bowl. He says the original idea was to have a different band shell built every season, but that proved too expensive during the Great Depression. Fortunately, the shell, built in 1929, was iconic enough to stay in place for almost 75 years. And what a run it was. Over the decades, everyone from Ella Fitzgerald to Elton John have performed here. There was the famous Beatles concert, with screams so loud they could reportedly be heard about a mile away on Hollywood Boulevard.
This was a pool.
A swimming pool.
It was full of water.
That was until 1968, when Jimi Hendrix showed up.
And he was playing, and the audience just started going more and more crazy. And at one point, people rushed down and jumped over that gray wall and started splashing around and swimming in the pool. And at that time, the leaders of the Hollywood Bowl said, I think it's probably time that we drain the bowl.
Today, that spot is one of the fancier sections to enjoy dinner and a show. But higher up, like way higher, the bowl makes $1 seats available for many of its shows. The $1 seats are a nod to the Hollywood Bowl's earliest days and the original vision of its founders.
Well, it was a group of theosophists, activists, politicians, artists, civic-minded people, but really it was a collection of really powerfully persuasive women who decided that what we needed in Hollywood was a space where we could present the great art forms for the widest possible audiences at low costs with almost no barriers to entry.
And a century later, that mission lives on. The Bowl has survived a world war, a pandemic, financial ups and downs.
I was a Hollywood high school student, and I got a job here.
And 84-year-old Ron Goldman has been here to see a lot of it.
My job was to take a stack of programs, put them under my arm, and run up and down these stairs hawking the program.
Goldman credits that job with making him the music fan that he is to this day.
It's hard not to fall in love with the Bowl. Once you've come here, you hear great music in an extraordinary atmosphere, and it has helped me to really appreciate classical music, popular music, all forms of music, And that is something that has informed my life a great deal.
For Gustavo Dudamel, it's not just the music that moves him, it's also the silence.
Imagine the concentration, the silence of 18,000 people, you know, listening to the pianissimo.
The sound, or lack thereof, of 18,000 people together, listening in perfect rhythm.
That only happens, you know, in a place like the Hollywood Bowl.
Lot number 1 in what Christie's calls the exceptional sale, an auction later this week, is one of the most influential instruments of the past century.
So where did your dad keep this?
He kept this in the basement.
Open it up for me.
Oh.
This is Les Paul's #1 Gibson Goldtop, the first approved prototype, his son Gene says, of his father's now iconic electric guitar.
Now let me do this very delicately.
Yeah.
That be it. Just stunning.
It is stunning. It's absolutely beautiful.
And the next part to stunning of how it looked is how he played it.
The guitar made its TV debut on the CBS program Omnibus back in 1953.
What did this guitar mean to him?
Everything. This was his crowning achievement. This was 30 years of experiments, of his dream, and his obsession with getting Gibson to make it.
Gibson rolled out its first Les Paul in 1952. It was soon embraced by the guitar gods of rock and roll. The Eagles' Joe Walsh, Led Zeppelin's Jimmy Page, and the Stones' Keith Richards all played a Les Paul.
It's one of those perfect rock and roll machines.
Carrie Keene of Christie's.
It has the ability to be driven at very high volume with a distortion level that is appealing and wonderful.
Les Paul, who died in 2009 at 94, was a guitar god himself. In the 50s, with his then-wife Mary Ford, he had 28 hit records, including his signature tune, How High the Moon. His quest to create a hard-body electric guitar had started when he was growing up in Wisconsin, when a fan passed him a note after a performance.
He said, I could hear your voice fine, I could hear your harmonica fine, but he said, I couldn't hear your guitar.
And that bothered your father?
Well, I don't think it bothered him. I think it lit him up.
One of Paul's early iterations he called the log.
A door hinge, a string, and a block of wood.
That's it.
He showed it to Jim Axelrod for this program in 2002.
This is like the printing press or the Model T.
It's the beginning. All set, Mary?
It was hardly his only invention. Paul also pioneered multi-track recording, as he demonstrated with Mary Ford on Omnibus with Alistair Cook in '53.
Who's the voices? That's Mary. I mean, they're all Mary's voices?
The National Inventors Hall of Fame.
Paul is the only artist inducted into both the Rock and Roll Hall of Fame and the Inventors Hall of Fame.
Was he as proud of being an inventor as he was of being a musician?
Being a musician is why he invented.
As Les Paul himself put it,
Love to play, love to entertain, love to make people laugh, make them happy.
Christie's has put a $100,000 to $150,000 estimate on the instrument, but Jean Paul wonders how you value history.
What do you hope happens to this guitar?
I'm going to miss it, but I miss Dad more. He said to me one time, he said, do you realize how many light bulbs Edison made before he got it? And that kind of rings in my mind. What's Edison's first bulb worth?
Yeah.
That's how much it meant to Dad.
It was quite a scene at designer Ralph Lauren's glittering 50th anniversary soiree not long ago. Celebrities and fashion industry bigwigs turned out in force. Then again, it's a big anniversary for a very big name in fashion.
I saw this as a land that I loved. There's a sense of freedom.
At the wheel of a rusty pickup truck that's seen a lot of unpaved roads, Ralph Lauren surveys his 20,000-acre Colorado spread.
You see the brown wood and the sort of fade and the tin roofs. It's all part of the history.
In a rustic cabin nestled in an open field. In the majestic mountain vistas, he found his muse, his inspiration.
It's about showing people in America or wherever I was that this is beautiful.
And for 50 years, that passion for timeless style, elegance, romance has informed a distinct fashion sensibility. You can adjust it. Make some adjustments.
Let's see it. I don't have to adjust.
Yes, you do.
You're
no, you're
good.
being
You're
a
good.
gentleman. Honestly, fix it.
Fix it?
Yeah,
all
do
right.
it right.
No, I don't do that.
He's outfitted the U.S. Olympic team since 2008 and dressed Nancy Reagan, Hillary Clinton, Michelle Obama, and Melania Trump. But growing up in the Bronx, Ralph Lauren did not foresee a future in fashion.
My mother and father wanted me a doctor or a lawyer or something that was safe, a teacher. So I think I'm very lucky. I could have been the doorman. I could have been anybody. And I think about that all the time.
You weren't preparing yourself for greatness.
Oh, I prepared myself for greatness in my mind. I did what a lot of kids did, go to the movies on Saturday afternoons and come out thinking I'm dueling with my brother or my friends and think I'm Tarzan. So there was a lot of dreaming in the Bronx. You didn't know what you were going to be.
But what Ralph Lauren had, even as a kid, was an eye for style. What I love about this picture is, well, pretty much everything. I love it's an outfit, it is confidence, and it also looks like a Ralph Lauren picture from your future.
I thought I was cool. The sweater was my brother's, and I think a jacket was my other brother's. And I'm wearing my own Levi's at the time.
When you were styling, and you were styling with your brother's hand-me-downs, and for someone who was going to be in your business, that thing that sparked, you saw it young.
That's true, but I didn't know, I never knew this was fashion.
And yet, as a salesman in Manhattan's garment district in his early 20s, he had an epiphany about a menswear staple, the tie. It hadn't changed much in generations.
Neckties were a very important product for men. They express their sensibility. They can't buy new suits, but they can change their ties.
His tie was wider, bolder, pricier. And he called his brand Polo for a reason.
Polo represented a lifestyle, and the people that played polo were international and very elegant.
The success of polo ties begat menswear.
I was exposing what I loved and what I liked by designing clothes that fit the man who didn't want to look too fashiony, who didn't want to look like he was a dandy.
Ralph Lauren and Polo came to represent a world of luxury.
Polo by Ralph Lauren.
Whether rustic or refined, winning a lot of fans and not a few critics.
I do what I do. There are critics that love your clothes and critics that don't love your clothes.
The ones that didn't love it so much, what were they saying?
They didn't get it. But evidently, there must have been something I had to say, because 50 years in the fashion business that is a trendy, moving business is really hard to do that.
And it's been a big year for Lauren. This fall, his golden anniversary runway show was the glamorous high point of New York's Fashion Week. He was recently named an honorary knight by Queen Elizabeth. He threw out the first pitch at Yankee Stadium in September. And with a company now worth more than $10 billion, Ralph Lauren is a bona fide global icon. But Ralph Lauren was not the name he was born with. Until the age of 19, he was known as Ralph Lifshitz.
In the world I was growing up, the word was a tough word. It was in my name. So that name change was not about being Jewish or not Jewish or being something else.
But for this designer, the name on the label isn't what matters most. When a woman walks in a room and she's wearing Ralph Lauren, it is not your aspiration for the room to say, well, I think she's wearing Ralph Lauren.
I'm not about what I think is sometimes a fashion victim who has to wear a label to prove that she's got taste. If you enjoy something, I like that because you're expressing who you are.
And if you presumed Ralph Lauren would be wearing Ralph Lauren for our interview,
the shirt?
We'd have both been wrong.
Well, this shirt I bought at Kmart. This is living proof of what I believe in. I love the aging of it. I love the rips. I love it all. And I like the way I look at it.
You didn't design it?
I didn't design it.
I assumed it was.
No, I happen to like this because it's the one that I have memories of.
And how come you chose it for this conversation today?
I want to look great.
And at 79, he looks pretty great. But for Ralph Lauren, fashion is not about how clothes make you look. It's about how they make you feel.
I feel cooler now than ever.
Why? How?
Because I've enjoyed my career and I'm still working really hard and well.
50 years and counting.
So let's hope it goes on.
This is the house I have been in my entire life.
Mm-hmm. In her entire life, all 18 years of it, Tavi Gevinson has already been a fashion icon at age 12, an internet publisher at age 15, and a film actress at age 17.
I just want to consume everything.
You just want to consume everything?
Yeah.
Her room in her parents' suburban home in Oak Park, Illinois, is a cacophony of influences. Everything from Barbie dolls to J.D. Salinger books to 45 RPM records. Her collection includes Frank Sinatra.
I'm just a hoarder, basically. What you're really making here is an episode of Hoarders. Sorry.
But the week we visit, Gevinson's packing up her room to move to New York and the bright lights of Broadway.
How long have you been rehearsing?
We started rehearsals in mid-May.
This September, she's starring in the play This Is Our Youth.
What you're like now has nothing to do with what you're gonna be like. Like right now, you're all like this rich little pot-smoking burnout rebel, but 10 years from now, you're gonna be like a plastic surgeon reminiscing about how wild you used to be.
When the Steppenwolf Theater opened its production in Chicago this summer, the Chicago Tribune wrote, Tavi Gevinson gives a luminous performance that could easily make her the Broadway it girl of next season.
You've never been involved in anything quite this big before.
No.
How does that feel?
It's wild, but I can't really even let myself think about it because then coming in here is much scarier.
Mm-hmm.
I just have to be we're just playing on the best playground ever, so yeah.
She was just 11 when she began posting her avant-garde thoughts about fashion online.
This is my dad's office.
Right.
He's a retired English teacher.
Uh-huh.
He
has an English teacher's desk.
Yeah, and also my manager's desk. And when I started my blog, I used his computer.
Her self-portraits, many shot in her backyard, caught the attention of top designers and fashion editors, like Vogue's Anna Wintour. And she was invited to Fashion Week in New York and in Paris.
What prompted you to start the blog?
Middle school is hard. I think at the end of 6th grade, I was I'd been rejected by that group. I didn't fit into this group. So it was kind of well, I can just have this hobby to myself. And by dressing this way, I'm completely exempting myself from even being ranked in the comparisons in middle school.
That's really interesting because, I mean, so many kids in middle school and even high school want to dress like everybody else so they feel included.
It wasn't even like, oh, I want to stand out. It was just like, I don't even want to have to think about being compared to that girl or who's prettier, or like I just need to have no peer.
At school, she was teased, but not deterred.
Was it girls or was it guys?
Guys.
It was guys.
Guys who couldn't understand why you weren't, like, trying to impress them. Like, one time this kid who had a locker next to mine was like, your dress looks like a curtain. And it seemed to just make him so angry. So I was just like, just you wait, I'll wear a tutu tomorrow. Like, it was a game. It was really fun.
In high school, she launched the website Rocca, a kind of cultural headquarters for teenage girls that won her legions of fans.
You weren't afraid to be ambitious.
I was at first, and I still am every day a little bit, because we don't live in a world that is necessarily really like encouraging for young women to be ambitious or to be confident or take what is yours.
She also began auditioning for films, landing a role in Enough Said, starring the late James Gandolfini and Julia Louis-Dreyfus.
Come on. What? We're not buying the same dress, Mom. I'm not gonna wear it at the same time as you. But you look stupid.
How old were you when you got interested in theater? And what got you interested in theater?
It's how I was raised. I mean, when I was 2, my sister would put curlers in my hair and like teach me Shirley Temple's song. Like, it was just really part of our home.
But home and high school are behind her now. At New York's Court Theater, in This Is Our Youth, she'll be starring with Kieran Culkin and Michael Cera as 3 friends grappling with growing up.
The way you act and all your most passionately held beliefs are all going to be completely different, and it's really depressing.
You wanted this part badly.
Yes.
Why?
Well, obviously I think a lot about youth and about this time in a person's life and what makes it so interesting and strange and bittersweet. Well, let me find those emails.
She has 250,000 Twitter followers, and from her new apartment will continue to edit Rocca. But Tavi Gevinson has graduated. The teenage fashion icon is now a New York cover girl.
You're on Broadway.
Yeah.
Wow.
I mean, yes, but also, like, I have to do my job and think of, like, I can't be up here and think, like, I'm on Broadway. Like,
But has there been a kind of pinch me moment for you?
Absolutely.
Yeah.
My whole life. Like, but it's not a complex response because it's not a complex thing. It's just wonderful. That's it.
I'd like to buy the world a home and furnish it with love.
Everyone talks about bottling success, but Coke actually did it.
I'd like to buy the world a Coke and keep it company.
This is the bottle, an iconic design recognized around the world, with its ridged glass, bowed middle, and unmistakable curve appeal.
Want my Coke? It's okay, you can have it.
A cold bottle of Coke famously made Mean Joe Green turn warm.
Okay.
A Coke and a smile.
Coke calls it the contour bottle. Andy Warhol called it art.
And this, for us, has been the Holy Grail.
Phil Mooney is Coca-Cola's company historian. Coke began in Atlanta in 1886 as a soda fountain drink selling for 5 cents.
People realize that this product is something that they like. They want to have more readily available than simply at the soda fountain itself. And so bottling plants spring up throughout the entire United States. And by about 1910, just about every part of the U.S. is covered.
Coke was on America's roads and in America's homes. But the bottles came in a dizzying variety of shapes and colors, By 1915, Coke's success had so many imitators, customers seldom knew whether they were buying the real thing.
And they come up with names that sound very much like Coca-Cola. So you get things like Cherry-Cola, Dixie-Cola, Take-a-Cola, Coca-Nola, any combination that you can think of that could deceive the public into thinking that they were actually buying Coca-Cola.
Coke executives had a company-defining marketing idea.
They decide that they're going to initiate a contest. They want a bottle that you will be able to identify it in the dark simply by its shape. A bottle that is so unique that even if you find it broken in pieces on the ground, you'll be able to identify it as a bottle for Coca-Cola.
At the Root Glass Company in Terre Haute, Indiana, designers inspired by the gourd-shaped cocoa pod drew one of marketing's all-time game changers. And in 1916, with a little slimming down, the 6.5-ounce Contour bottle was born.
People recognize that they clearly understand what it is, and to use that bottle as an icon for our brand.
During World War II, Coke donated more than 5 billion bottles to GIs fighting overseas. Today, Coke worldwide sells almost 2 billion drinks every 24 hours. And it only seems as if Bill and Kathy Combs buy all of them.
There's not an inch uncovered in this room.
Now, this is saturation, I would say.
Yeah.
Coke collectibles of every description cover all 12 rooms of the Combs home outside Baltimore.
If you look around, the signs, the paperwork, everything shows the bottle on it. I mean, you know the Coca-Cola bottle immediately.
The bottle represents Coca-Cola in my mind.
Represents it in what way to you?
I think it's just, it's one of those symbols that you remember as a kid. It represents the whole package. It's everything good.
But in the 1990s, Coke executives seemed to lose touch with the company's roots.
They're adding gradation, putting bubbles in to make people think of what they like about Coke, and then a lot of promotional work as well on it. You basically are losing the most important iconography of our brand.
Katie Bain, a Coke executive, says the company finally realized its mistake in its advertising. Now, Bain says, in all their packaging and marketing, you'll spot the Contour bottle somewhere.
And as crazy as it sounds, this stuff matters.
This stuff does matter. It's a 2-second purchase decision. And people aren't standing there in the aisle waiting. They're in the aisle. They want to find the brand they love.
So whatever you're drinking to cool off in this summer heat, remember the message in this bottle. Sometimes what's on the outside counts as much as the inside. And that is all by design.
Name the man who's pictured outside and inside the U.S. Supreme Court, who's quoted on the Liberty Bell, and who's an inspiration for both Uncle Sam and Lady Liberty. Here's a hint.
Moses supposes his toes are roses, but Moses supposes erroneously.
Moses.
Moses.
Oh, Moses, Moses. Moses, the man who led the Israelites out of slavery and in a scripture-stealing scene parted the waters of the Red Sea. A life story so extraordinary it earned the author a 5-book deal.
No, Moses' life is one of the greatest adventure stories ever put between the covers of a book.
Behold his mighty hand!
It was made into a major motion picture starring Charlton Heston, a movie that felt almost as long as the 40-year trek across the Sinai Desert.
First, the spikes of light around her head, and then second, the tablet in her arms, both of which come from the moment that Moses comes down Mount Sinai with the 10 Commandments.
Bruce Feiler is the author of a book about Moses. He points out that Moses has been invoked over and over throughout American history, from the Pilgrims to Abraham Lincoln to Martin Luther King Jr.
Martin Luther King, the night before he died, said, I have been to the mountaintop, I have looked over, I have seen the promised land.
I may not get there with you, but I want you to know tonight that we as a people will get to the promised land.
Benjamin Franklin, John Adams, and Thomas Jefferson each originally proposed Moses for our national seal. And 2/3 of the eulogies for George Washington compared him to Moses. So it should be no surprise that the biblical superhero inspired a comic book superhero.
Just in the same way baby Moses is put into a basket and floated down the Nile to escape annihilation, baby Superman put into a spaceship, launched into space to escape extinction. Both figures were picked up by strangers, raised in alien environments before being summoned to assist humanity. Why is this story so powerful? Because it is fundamentally about where we are today, which is when you're in a difficult place, you need to imagine a better place.
Difficult doesn't even begin to describe Moses' journey. Telling his full story would take at least 40 years. Here it is in 40 seconds. Moses is a Hebrew born into slavery in Egypt. His mother sends him down the Nile in a basket. The world's first flume ride ends with adoption by Pharaoh's daughter. Moses grows up, kills an abusive Egyptian, flees to the desert, marries, has kids, becomes a shepherd. One day God, in the form of a burning bush, tells him to go back, free his people. Moses would really rather stay with sheep. But it's God asking, so even though he's not much of a speaker and has absolutely no idea what he's doing, he reluctantly returns to Egypt. And that's just the beginning.
Moses is the patron saint of hope.
Okay, and Moses needs hope, right? Because his journey is fraught with failure.
God forgive my weak use of his strength.
Racked with self-doubt and an anger management problem, Moses suffers constant setbacks. Only 3 days after the guy parts the Red Sea, the Israelites are already complaining.
No, there's not enough food to drink, there's not enough water to drink, and then
You don't like manna.
Yeah.
And while Moses is up on the mountain receiving the 10 Commandments, down below there are orgies, rebellions, and the worshiping of a golden calf. Challenges that face leaders of all kinds, from heads of state to captains of industry. Nico Canner is a business leadership consultant.
What leaders do is to struggle against the sort of fundamental human impulses to questioning, to dissatisfaction, to unrest, to try to channel them to come together.
Canner, who advises troubled companies, says today's business leaders, anxious for a quick turnaround, should take a page from a leader who took the long view and was never blindly certain.
The illusion of certainty in business is something like this golden calf. We wish to believe that it's possible to say, next quarter, our earnings will be this, and a year out, they'll be that.
An eternally rising stock market? A housing bubble that never bursts? Bernie Madoff's gift that kept on giving? Are these today's false idols?
Moses' willingness to undertake something so great enables him to build a people in a lasting way, even when he can't complete the journey in his lifetime.
The end of Moses' life could be called Finding Nebo, the name of the mountain where he dies, only to look out at the promised land beyond. Hardly a Hollywood ending. But that, says Bruce Feiler, is what makes this story so great. If Moses had made it to the promised land, do you think the story would pack less of a punch?
Absolutely. I actually think that's one of the reasons that the story has endured so much, is because the ultimate lesson of the story is the dream doesn't die with the dreamer, and the true destination isn't this year at all, but next year.
A promising message as a new year approaches.